The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
I saw a pale horse. The beast.
We're told in the book of Revelation.
This is not a human child.
Isn't an angel Satan?
Armageddon is almost upon us.
Order the use of nuclear weapons.
The world is a fine place and worth fighting for.
From one end of the world to the other, I will oppose you.
They're here.
Welcome to the end of the world.
Wrestling not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. This is P.I.D. Radio.
From a mostly secure facility high above the Missouri Ozarks, welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and welcome to our humble bunker, everybody.
Sam is staring at me. What do you mean mostly secure?
I am so
totally
leaving
secure.
this place because I'm clearly not appreciated. And where's my new bed for Christmas? Mother said she was getting me a new bed.
He's so upset that there's not a bed in every single room. Well, welcome to PID Radio.
And in every single car.
Yes, yes, exactly. So anyway, well, what an auspicious beginning to our program. Sam says you should start every program talking about me.
Oh, yeah. We have to get the Sam factor right up front. Otherwise, people don't listen.
Yep.
There's no Sam in the first 2 minutes. That's it. I'm out of here.
The ratings drop when there's not a Sam reference every 2 minutes. So.
Yeah, in fact, have you noticed that Josh and Christina Peck often mention Sam?
Sure, yeah.
He's not even their dog.
I know, but they've been very good about implementing that format, Sam format, and that's why they've got 20,000 YouTube followers.
Oh, so, yeah. Well. In fact, most of them are named Sam. Sam T. Dachshund, Sam A. Dachshund, Sam I'm a Dachshund.
Sam the, yes.
Gosh. Well,
what a world. Just 1 week until Christmas Eve.
I know. I'm so excited by that. By the way, in case you're wondering, we will not be doing a PID radio next Sunday, nor will we be doing a Gilbert House Fellowship. We're taking the day off. Derek and I have been writing like crazy over the last few months.
Well, you especially, but I've still got some writing I need to do.
I mean, we're just both hanging in there, hammering away on the old keyboard. Yeah, writing fools, mostly fools. But we have lots of projects that are due in 2018, so we're still working.
Yeah, lot coming up. I've got chapter. Have you done your chapter yet for the?
I started it.
Okay, well, you're ahead of me. I have not started my chapter yet. There's a project that will be coming out first quarter of 2018 from Defender Publishing that involves a number of us, and I haven't started my chapter yet.
Well, when we originally had the meeting, I wrote down, and this is how I heard it, and I wrote it down, that the chapters were due by the end of January. And then I got a note saying, okay, chapters due by the end of December. And then, well, what? December, January, those are two different
things
months.
Slipped just a little bit.
Yeah, well, anyway, I'll get it done.
But, and then on top of that, you've got, the third book in the Red Wing Saga will be out in a week.
I finally finished it. It's the layout person, Kevin Summers, who is so wonderful at that sort of thing. He's doing the layout. He did the layout for the first two books. He's doing this one as well. He does such a good job, and he's really fast, which means that I can take a little bit of extra time and still get the Kindle version out when I say it's going to be released. The print version, we don't know if it's going to be ready by that day or not, but it will be done soon thereafter, if not on the 25th. And that will be through Amazon. Kindle version, of course, will be through Amazon, but also the print version you can order if you just have to be an early adopter and get that third print book before we get them in at the Skywatch warehouse. We always get them at the warehouse, a couple of months after they're released on Amazon, and that's simply because it takes longer. Amazon can print in a day. You can order it, and they're off to the races, but traditional printing through an actual publishing house takes a little longer.
A little longer, right.
That's fine. But it's less expensive. When you order through Tom Horn, your Defender, you get such a good deal. He always throws in extra stuff for free. So if you have to read the book right away, read it on Kindle. But if you want a print version of it, then you might want to wait until Skywatch offers it, because you'll likely get some sort of massive deal. That's how he is.
But the first two books, And I'll throw in this plug. The first 2 books for the Red Wing saga available in print from the Skywatch TV store.
We have them in the studio.
Yeah, and they are available. The Red Wing saga package, or what's
bundle.
the official title?
The bundle. I don't know.
The Blood Rights package. It includes the first 2 novels in the series, Blood Lies and Blood Rights, the print copies, plus the Ahriman Gate audiobook, which I narrated, and then the DVD, The Best of Sci Friday, Volume 1.
Volume 1, because we plan on producing more of those. In fact, we'll have to put together another one to come out next year.
Yeah, more best episodes.
More best. Do we have any?
All the ones that feature Josh.
Yeah. And where we talk about
Sam. Yeah. So anyway, all of that for $30. If you buy the 2 novels by themselves
at Amazon,
that's $40 just for those 2. So for $30, you get the 2 novels plus the audiobook of the Ahriman Gate, which is a really exciting story. Tom and Nita Horn did a great job writing the story. I had a lot of fun narrating it, so hopefully you'll enjoy listening to it. And then, Sci Friday, just what we do, and a dozen episodes that we consider to be our strongest, which includes some interview sessions with Carl Gallups, with Guy Malone, with Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, Justin Fall on various things.
And those Sci Friday discs make great gifts, or you can just, I don't know, hang them on the wall.
Great coasters.
Oh, yeah. Very good coasters. Oh, yeah.
So anyway, that's at skywatchtvstore.com, skywatchtvstore.com, where you can also find the brand new book by me and Josh Peck.
Well, I was going to say, before we get to that book, you can also buy just Blood Rights.
Oh, right. And,
because if you've already got Blood Lies, you still get Ahriman Gate audiobook and the Sci Friday disc free with Blood Rights, and you pay $19.95, which is what you would pay for it at Amazon.
Right. So again, crazy Tom Horn giving the fabulous deals. We joke that the next package, somehow in 2018, he's going to figure out a package where if you buy the book, you'll get an RV as part of the deal.
I'm buying 10 of those.
Yeah.
Why not? That's what I say. Your book, by the way, as of yesterday, was the #1 new release in the science category,
science and religion
category at Amazon.com.
Still is.
Well, you and Josh, you are the men. I mean, come on. You are the men in, I don't know.
Not black.
Not black. You're not wearing black. You often wear sort of a charcoal gray. Or, duct tape, which is gray.
That's
the
true.
men in duct tape.
Yes. That was quite fun. And of course, you can buy the book, The Day the Earth Stands Still, which is our new book. And I suspect the Amazon sales are driven by the interview we did a week before last on Coast to Coast AM, which was a lot of fun. We did 2 hours with George Norrie on Coast to Coast AM. But of course, you get just an incredible deal if you go to the Skywatch TV store. Besides the book, you get Mike Heiser's novels, The Facade and The Portent, which if you've not read, you really should, because he takes the UFO phenomenon and the abduction phenomenon, which are 2 separate things, and digs into the actual research, but then analyzes it from a Christian perspective and does all of that in a fictional format, which is really good. And Mike is a really good writer. He actually writes really good fiction. The Facade and the Portent. Josh's book, Unraveling the Multiverse, which is essentially an updated compilation, which includes his first 2 books, Quantum Creation and Cherubim Chariots, in 1 volume. So you've got 4 books there, plus 2 mystery books.
Which could be, and those mystery books often are really good books.
Yeah.
They're newer books. It's not like you're getting a used book. It's just that these are books that we maybe have just a few copies of, and we can't really throw it in and guarantee that we can sell thousands of them.
Right. So anyway, you're getting 3, 4, 6 books altogether, plus Official Disclosure, which is a presentation, or rather, no, that's like 24 hours of audio.
6 books, 7 DVDs, and an audio series.
Right, an audio series, which is Tom Horn and Steve Quayle talking about the UFO phenomenon. One of the DVDs is Tom's presentation, The Secret Vatican and Alien Antichrist Connection, which he gave at the Strategic Perspectives Conference, which was at Koinonia House. So that DVD, plus then 5 DVDs that we call Project Stargate. That's interviews with that we conducted, mainly that we conducted down in Roswell, but also some other interviews with people like Chuck Missler, Gary Stearman, the late Chris Putnam, Paul McGuire, And then down in Roswell, of course, the interviews with Mike Heiser, Joe Jordan, Joyce Aarons, Daryl Sims, the alien hunter.
Yes.
He's calls
a personality
himself.
and a half.
Yeah. So all of that for $40. So 4 books, 7 DVDs, 1 audio series, and the 2 mystery books. Yeah, for $40. So again, skywatchtvstore.com. So anyway, enough of the commercial from the friend here.
No, we need more. What's Sam? Sam, you'll get an autograph. No, he won't autograph pictures.
He doesn't do autographs.
He holds up his paw.
Talk to the paw. Well, speaking of UFOs, did you want to go there first on this revelation?
Actually,
in the New
really
York
quickly
Times?
Before I just want to, if you've not seen the story from Pakistan.
Oh, yes, yes.
Suicide bombers attacked a church there this morning. We're recording this, of course, on Sunday. And December the 17th, that morning, local time, in Quetta, which is southwestern Pakistan. These men, apparently this church expected, because it's a minority, Christianity is very much the minority in Pakistan.
Is mainly a Muslim nation.
It is. 400 worshipers were in there attending the Sunday service. There were gates at this church and guards who were positioned at this gate, and one of them lost his life because he went after this gunman as the gunman came in, and the gunman was set up to become a suicide bomber, which is what he did. He detonated himself and took out this guard. As of this morning, this afternoon when we're recording this, 8 people are dead. Yeah. It's
tragic, but sadly this kind of violence is not unheard of in that part of the world, and it's not always Muslim on Christian. I mean, in India, sometimes you get violent Hindu activists who will go in and attack Muslims or Christians, and so this is
in fact, there's a real rise of Hindu nationalism, which seems like a strange thing to say. Okay, if you're Hindu, that's a religion, but that's part and parcel with their national identity, and it's on the rise again. So there are, in fact, I think that there are many in government who are Hindus that are, and this idea that we need to get back to our ancient roots and rout out those who've taken over our culture.
Yeah,
it's in this world of a new world order, mentality, which is what the rich people of the world want to believe. They're erasing all borders. The fact is that those borders seem to be becoming more and more important to people as they become porous, as we see here in the United States, these borders become porous and outsiders, and I put that in air quotes, come through, that those of us who've lived here for generations take umbrage. We don't want to be invaded, and so we get really patriotic and nationalistic, and I think that that's the other side of this game that the fallen spirits are playing with humanity right now.
Yeah, you let's you and him fight.
Yeah, it's a spiritual Hegelian dialectic.
Right. This area where Quetta was is located. You mentioned southwestern Pakistan. This is another one of those areas where national borders really don't have any bearing, don't bear any relation to the major ethnic groups who occupy those areas. It is on a border between areas that are mainly Baluchi, which is Baluchistan is the province of Pakistan, but the Baluchi people make up the majority of the people in that region, but also in southernmost Afghanistan and southeastern Iran. Sort of like the Kurds occupy a region that straddles Iraq, Syria, Iran, and Turkey. The Baluchi people basically are found in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. And Quetta is on a region that is sort of borders between the majority Baluchi people and the Pushtun people. And of course, for the most part, Christianity is a very small minority there, and it is a region where violent Muslim groups are groups that espouse a violent approach to spreading Islam. Let me put it that way. Have a lot of latitude, a lot of freedom.
Very much so. That's going to lead into another story that I want to cover before we get to the ones that connect to your book.
Okay.
that is that the way that China is dealing with the Uyghur population. The Uyghur population are those who are Muslim in the way they worship, and
they're Turkic by ethnicity.
Exactly. And these families often send their young to Egypt to Turkey to learn the Islam because they can't learn it there. It's illegal.
Right.
And China has been collecting through doctors' offices. They are now collecting biometric and DNA information from Uyghurs.
I see that.
With the idea that these are terrorists and they're trying to identify, this is the claim, that they're trying to identify terrorist individuals before it's pre-crime.
With DNA?
The DNA is, I guess, later on that if they want to prove somebody did something.
Oh, okay, with biometrics, okay.
Yes, exactly. It's biometrics, but this is all about control. The word is, and I say this because there are writers in China who are making this claim. The word is that there are education camps that are springing up, schools, and I put that in air quotes, for these Uyghur children and young people to train them up according to the Chinese beliefs.
Yeah.
Buddhist beliefs. And
China is actually officially atheist.
Oh, that's true. But
it's atheist.
That is true. That is true. That is true. There are many Buddhists in China, but yes, the official line is that there is no religion.
Right, exactly.
Except for Maoism.
Yeah.
But anyway, you learn this, and those who've infiltrated these schools say that they're like a cult, which is very much how the Maoist belief system operates.
Yeah.
Everybody has to dress the same. They behave the same. They spout the same lines. Almost, okay, I'm not going to think. I'm just going to say this is parrot back what I've been taught. The children who are in Egypt and Turkey are actually being stolen and brought back and put into these camps.
Oh.
There are some parents that haven't seen their kids in a year. And they don't know what happened to them.
Well, that's different.
Yeah. So if
this is mainly in Xinjiang province, which is Western China. So you're going to place that on a map. It's the farthernmost western region of China. There are 11 million Uighurs who live in this region.
Yeah, it's not a small number, but they are very much the minority in China.
Yeah. But as part of this process, which bears sort of the innocuous name Physicals for All, we're going to give free physical exams to everyone. And while we're doing it, we're just going to, take scans of your eyes and your fingerprints and
your DNA.
And your DNA. Yeah. Here, swab this. Look into this little thing here. We're taking a picture of your retina.
We just want to make sure your eye is healthy. I used to do that for a living. Before I started in my graduate program, I was working in the School of Optometry and at Indiana University, and one of the many things I did was photograph eyeballs. I mean, I would photograph the retina and the optic nerve, and I would, do scans on people using ultrasound, and I took a lot of images. And had this been a clinic where the whole point was to surreptitiously collect your DNA, there are lots of opportunities.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot of there. In fact, this kind of tangentially relates to another story that came out this week that was the reason I duct taped my head on Skywatch TV on Thursday.
Yeah, and it felt so good.
Well, yeah, the headaches went away when I wrapped it with the duct tape. I don't know what that was.
And suddenly they weren't able to read your thoughts. That's why everybody panicked. Just water. He's sitting there looking at me like, "What she got? Is it coffee?
Is it coffee? Please."
No, it's water.
Yeah, Sam's got a coffee Jones.
He does.
It's we got him hooked, and now we have to do it every day. Otherwise, we're there. Well.
Otherwise, he gets really snarly.
Podcast redacted. Yeah. And I've not done a study of this, and I really need to. And I think there was more. Well, let me back up a step here. I'm starting to rabbit trail. I need to cut down the length of the rabbit trail. A the head of engineering, the School of Engineering Education at Purdue University, which is not a school of engineering, a School of Engineering Education, which is how do we teach engineering? Okay, and Purdue University is the Boilermakers. It's a school that has a strong reputation.
I know where you're going. I'm trying to figure out how we got here.
Well, it's because the point is that even engineering, which you would think would be as an egalitarian a science as there can be, has been converged by social justice values. We have to rethink the way we teach science and enginering because it's biased.
I'm still trying to figure out how we got there.
Let me get there.
I'm sorry.
And I'm trying to cipher through this because I don't have my head all the way around this yet, which is where I started to go, and then I realized I was.
Sorry, the last thing I remember talking about is IU.
Yeah. IU, Purdue.
I said Indiana University School of Optometry, where I used to work.
Okay. And Uighurs and China and communism and indoctrination. That's where I was going with this.
Okay, carry on.
The Chinese government during the revolution that the Cultural Revolution that Mao led, that was a big part of their revolution, as I understand it. And again, I'm not really well educated on this, so I'm bringing up something that I'm speaking somewhat out of school because this is not something I'm expert on, which is why I'm kind of struggling with this. But that appears to be what's going on in our schools and our universities here in the West now, and we don't even recognize it. That our children and our grandchildren are being taught that the educational system of their parents and grandparents is actually this system of oppression that needs to be thrown off in order to achieve the socialist utopia that they think that they can achieve. And that's why I think a lot of young people, when you see surveys today, half or better of people and kids in college today think that socialism is a better system than capitalism. But that's part and parcel of what we were, with the Uyghur children being indoctrinated by the Chinese, control of the educational system is long been a tool of government control. And here we're well-meaning Christian parents who don't really pay attention to what's going on in public education, I think, are putting their kids into the hands of people who have these same kind of ideals as the government of the communist Chinese.
Yes, and that's one of the biggest dangers when you turn over the education of your children to outsiders. If the education of a Christian child always should start and end in the home.
Yeah,
and if you rely upon the people within the church or the local school, because it doesn't start. That didn't begin in colleges. That began in grade schools.
Yeah, and by the way, I hope I didn't come across as getting kind of upset there. I just
I get it.
I had a very slender thread that I was hanging on to try to make my point, and any wind was going to break that thread, and I was just going to be totally lost. So I just wanted
like a little spider web. Oh no, I don't.
So I apologize.
No, not at all. I want to apologize to you because what I was doing was trying to put myself in the position of the listener, thinking, "Whiplash, where'd this come from?"
Well, I learned early in my broadcast career that what I think is coming out of my head is not what's coming out of your speakers. So forgive me if that was what was going on there. But I thought I had a thread there, but I knew that if I got derailed, I was just going to be totally lost in this sea of I don't know what I'm talking about. Which I may not, but that was a point that a couple of viewers who saw that program where I talked about this, and the woman's name is Donna Riley. She's an educated person. She's got a doctorate. She's graduate of Carnegie Mellon University, which is another highly respected engineering university. But the thing that astonished me is that, again, engineering, you're dealing with
numbers.
You're dealing with things that are verifiable facts. I mean, the length of that steel I-beam, it is what it is. And the strength of the steel either meets the ASTM specification or it does not.
Exactly.
And yet to say that science itself is biased, which was one of the things, and this was in a paper that was published in a peer-reviewed academic journal that she recently wrote, that science is biased. It perpetuates the white male heterosexual privilege, and it's a tool of the patriarchy. My head is going to explode.
Here's the thing. She was claiming that only white males get published, and she would never have been the head a tenured professor at the head of her department unless she'd been published.
Yeah. And claiming that we need to rethink the way engineering is taught, because the way we're teaching engineering, which is, you need to know how to do trigonometry, you need to know basic physics, is biased against people of color, against women, against she put it LGBTQ plus, because now there are so many letters in the acronym you can't keep up with it, and people from the Southern Hemisphere. I mean, that was in her paper. Engineering
is a white woman.
This is a white
comes
woman
from privileged education.
Right. The fact that she was able to afford an education at Carnegie Mellon University suggests
and Smith College.
And Smith College before that. That's correct. Indicates that she is a woman herself of privilege. But that is apparently more important in academia today than actually knowing reading, writing, and arithmetic. And it just smacks of what the Chinese, the communists, did to their people during the reign of Mao Zedong. Mm-hmm. And here we're seeing it happen in the United States of America, which is supposed to be the freest nation on earth. My gosh, what is going on?
I know. It also smacks of 1984, George Orwell, this idea of the ministry of doublespeak.
Right. So anyway, I didn't mean to derail where we were going with this, but it just
glad you went in that direction. I was just trying to figure out why you turned there. This is this road.
That's why.
And that's all you need to say, honey. Squirrel works for me. As someone who studied the empirical, method, it has to be reproducible. You have to put down how you got that result, and somebody else has to be able to come along and reproduce that same result. Otherwise, what your findings are worthless.
Yeah.
And to say that somehow numbers and the idea of science itself, the journey to find new information about the world, is biased in favor of white men of privilege.
Yeah, I know.
That's insanity.
I know. And white heterosexual men too.
Yeah,
right?
well.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, no, let me back up. Insanity was probably an unfortunate term, because I don't know this woman, and I have no idea what is driving her writing.
She probably means well, and she's part of a milieu that encourages that type of thought, and inside that bubble, inside their echo chamber, they are trying to change society for the better. Well, God bless their pointy little heads.
It reminds me of the idea of noblesse oblige, which means that I've got mine, and I'm going to make sure that I dribble down some to you, and that makes me feel better about my having all mine.
Well, yeah, I also heard from somebody. I got a number of responses from this, and my reaction to this was as emotional as on Thursday when I recorded this for Skywatch TV as it was this morning, wrapping the duct tape around my head, which was a little extreme. I mean, not really dignified, but I just could not believe what I was reading. And when I followed up the links and found that, yes, this is actually an academic paper that was peer reviewed and published in an academic journal, which means there are other people who read this and said, well, yes, this seems like it's, so we approve this for publication. It is a bit mind-boggling that we're living in a world where that passes for academic rigor, which is a term she took issue with, by the way. She said, we need to, do away with the term academic. I want to know that the bridges that we cross have been designed and built by men and women who were put through some academic rigor to get their jobs.
I would also like to know, by the same sort of set of rules, someone studying medicine.
Yes.
Does that person have to, pass academic rigor with regards to understanding anatomy and physiology?
But is
understanding pharmacology? I'd like for them to know that.
Absolutely. And somebody who replied, and I got a lot of responses to that particular program, said that their neighbor is an African American who is an engineer and was highly offended at this. And I don't think this is and as you point out, the author of this particular piece, Donna Riley, is a woman of privilege, clearly, because, I don't know what.
Well, didn't Hillary Clinton go to Smith?
She did. Yeah, a woman of privilege writing this and saying that we need to basically deconstruct the way engineering is taught because it's slanted towards straight white men, and make it then more open to people of color and people of different background. Anyway, this African-American engineer was very offended by this because what this woman is saying, without saying so in so many words,
that's exactly
is that
what she's saying.
African-Americans it's too hard for African-Americans. It's too hard for women.
But she's it's too hard for women. Now, I take umbrage at that.
Right. The way we're teaching it just is making it too hard for these people. And look, I'm sorry, engineering is all about the numbers. It is about being able to do the calculations.
Your sister has a degree in engineering.
My sister's an engineer, yes. She is an intelligent, not only she's an engineer, she speaks French fluently, and she's conversant in Spanish, Italian, and studied Russian too. So, you can do it if it's an interest to you. The point is, and this is what gets, and this I think is where, what's at the heart of it. Fundamentally, the reason there are more male engineers than female engineers is because, generally speaking, men are more likely to enjoy that kind of work than women are.
I think that's very true. Typically, men tend to like mathematical, careers a little more than women. Doesn't mean women can't do it.
No, it doesn't mean that at all. Women tend to be better about details and being able to focus for long periods of time, which the British found out when they invented radar in World War II, and they found out the women made better radar monitors, operators than men because they could pay attention longer than men.
Women look at
squirrel because our attention spans aren't as long.
Women look at careers in mathematics and they just go, "That looks really boring. Why on earth would I want to do that?
Yeah.
I'll let him do that, and I'll go do something interesting."
Exactly, but it gets to the deconstruction of God's creation. We don't want the spirits behind this movement. And is manifesting in a variety of ways, which is why you're getting this movement into engineering education. It wants to erase the lines between male and female. As Jesus said, Matthew 19, from the beginning, he created them male and female, and talking about marriage and so forth. But I think fundamentally, it means there's some differences there. And the Bible spells out some differences between the roles of men and the roles of women. This modern LGBTQ plus movement, which is the dominant strain of thought in academia, wants to deconstruct that and say, no, there are no differences. In fact, male and female are just two flavors of ice cream in this, 97 flavors or whatever. These are just two colors from this rainbow, this spectrum of innumerable shades, of infinite number of shades of identity that you can choose, which is why the LGBTQ movement is now LGBTQIQQQAA. And you think I'm making that up, but that's actually from I don't have it in front of me or I'd read it exactly, but a notice that was sent out to teachers, I think in Canada somewhere, about some meeting on gender identity.
Yeah.
But the whole point is the fallen, those who rebelled against God the Creator, want to deconstruct what it means to be human. And for the most part, being human means being male or female. Now, not all of us manifest our maleness in the same way. I like to sing. Not every guy likes to sing. Okay, I do like football. I just don't spend all day Sunday sitting in front of the TV watching football. I don't mind.
And I love you for it.
So, and there are different. Yeah. We're not all the same, but there are some general characteristics that we can draw between men and women.
Okay, now I'm going to bridge to the next topic.
5-year-olds can spot that. For some reason, we as adults have lost that ability.
I think our listeners have got it. I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is connected.
The horse is on life support. Let me beat it some more.
This is connected.
Yes.
It has to do with the spiritual lie. And that is that the next phase of this spiritual lie is going to do with beings that are from another
galaxy?
Extra dimensional.
Oh.
Because we're not going to fall for the other galaxy. We've already figured that ain't happening. But contiguous universe?
Right.
I'm quoting from a recent email.
Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the late Edgar Mitchell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Extra dimensional arrival coming in now on track 4. Landing on
Dimension 14B.
Exactly. Landing on a lawn near you, signs and wonders.
Yeah, that was, it's interesting how, and Josh and I, this really became clear in the research that Josh and I did for the book, was that the more we know about outer space, the farther away, over time, as we have learned more about outer space, the contactees who we're hearing from, extraterrestrials, you can hear the air quotes around that word because we don't believe there are any, got farther and farther away. Their point of origin was moved farther and farther away. Early on, back in 18th century, when Emanuel Swedenborg, who was a mystic, purportedly Christian, but not
he believed
really.
There were gods living on other planets.
Yeah, he called them angels, but still, I'm hearing from angels living on Venus and Mars and Jupiter. Well, as we learned more about, and even until the 1950s, there were contactees who said that they were hearing from ETs from Venus and from Mars. And as we learned more about those planets and learned how inhospitable those planets actually are, the points of origin began moving further and further away. Oh, we're from Pluto. Oh, Pluto's like an icy ball of nothing. Okay, well, we're from Andromeda or Sirius or wherever. But now we know how much energy it would take to move across those vast distances of space. And in order to do so in any reasonable length of time, you'd have to be moving so quickly that impacting grains of sand in interstellar dust would be, cratering the front of your ship. You'd basically blow up when you got to that.
You also have to ask yourself, why on earth would they even want to be here?
What's their point in getting here? Yeah.
Yeah. Expending all of that energy to get here, I guess my answer is the claim that, it's because of the resources we have here.
Sure.
They just want to steal them. Seems like expending that many resources to come here and get a few of our resources, seems like there'd be a better way. If you're that advanced.
Right. It's like, here, devote your computer to mining Bitcoin, and in 24 hours you can make $12. I can do something that could make me $12 in 15 minutes. Why should I? Yeah. Anyway, and that's not to demean anybody who's mining Bitcoin. I'm just using that as an example in terms of the amount of resources yielded for the amount of effort involved. Yeah, we're going to travel 4 light years of space and consume all of these resources, subject ourselves to intense interstellar radiation in order to pick up.
And we wonder why we have no children. I don't know.
Yeah. It really is a the contactee community, the UFO community in general, is not asking hard questions. There are some out there like Jacques Vallée who has, and there are some serious researchers within the Mutual UFO Network who are not happy that some of the members of its inner circle, its advisory council, are there just because they paid lots of money for the privilege.
Yeah.
When one of them is, and I don't want to demonize anybody, but channeling a 36,000-year-old warrior from a lost continent, that doesn't speak to academic rigor. It doesn't speak to investigative rigor.
How dare you use that term?
It's sexist.
It's speciest.
Yeah. The community needs to be asking harder questions. The contactees, why is it if these entities really have crossed, again, the reason that they're not saying that they've crossed interstellar space anymore, but they're coming from the contiguous universe, they're coming from another dimension, is because that's something we can't verify, which is the whole point of this long diatribe I'm in the middle of. They keep giving us information that cannot be verified. And the contactees are getting information that is mutually contradictory. One group says they're from here, another group says they're from there, another group says that they're from somewhere else. Well, who's lying? I mean, they can't all be telling the truth.
Either someone is not being honest, and I put the spirits behind that in
right.
that, or there are lots of spirits that hey, I'll be a lying spirit in the mouth of so-and-so.
Right. So, yeah, they're not all telling the truth, and it could be that none of them are telling the truth. And I just, again, wonder if they're technologically advanced enough to get here in the first place, whether it's by crossing interstellar space or crossing boundaries between dimensions. Why can't they work a radio and just, say, hello, open a hailing frequency?
It has to be it does have to be sort of mysterious. I mean, seriously, in order to promulgate a lie,
right,
you cannot be clear about what that lie means.
Exactly. And that's our whole point here. It's not if they were genuine and they were here to help us, because with the emails that, and Josh wrote this section of the book and did a really good job of mining the WikiLeaks to find all of the emails from Dr. Mitchell and his colleagues trying to set up a meeting with President Obama to present to the president the offer from the aliens from the contiguous universe. Mm-hmm. And apparently there are two types. There were the celestials and then there were the extraterrestrials. And the ETIs were one kind and the celestials were another. And one of them was bad and one of them was loyal to God. But they wanted us to have free energy, 0-point energy and other stuff. But they had to make sure that we were peaceful first. That we're not going to take this energy and then go out and conquer the universe or something.
Hence the name of your book. I think that it's a brilliant title, "The Day the Earth Stands Still," because it's a play on the TV, the film, "The Day mm-hmm. the Earth Stood Still," which was all about another, planet's civilization sending a spaceship to Washington, D.C. And Michael Rennie gets out, handsome alien, and he says, mm-hmm. you need to declare an end to your proliferation of nuclear weapons, and you need to have a peace that is enforceable, because if you don't, Gort and his robot companions are going to take you out.
Destroy the entire world. Mm-hmm. And they make a demonstration of just vaporizing a number of weapons that had showed up to surround the craft that had landed in Washington. Yeah, that is the reason. That's the inspiration for the title of the book, because we believe that every time there's a change in presidential administration here in the United States, there's a buzz in the UFO community. Will this administration on the way out open the books? Will the mm-hmm. new administration open the books and tell us what they know about the extraterrestrials? We show in the book that the intelligence community here in the U.S. and presumably in other nations as well have been involved in the UFO phenomenon ever since the modern phenomenon began in 1947. Mm-hmm. Because I think most of what people see, these mysterious lights in the sky, are either misidentified natural phenomena, like the planet Venus is like the number one. What's that bright light over there? It's just Venus. But a lot of them are craft that the government doesn't want other nations to know about. And they will, send these planes up when they're less likely to be seen. But, to test them out, they've got to fly them around. And so there's always a chance that somebody in the public's going to see them. Well, how do you control the release of that information? And what happens when one of them crashes, which is what happened most probably at Roswell in 1947.
Here's the thing, though. Anytime the government comes out with a press release about UFO programs, mm-hmm. you have to ask yourself, is this genuinely official disclosure beginning, or is this some sort of propaganda? Right. I say this because we're just now seeing in the last couple of days a plethora of stories at the New York Times and the Washington Post and New York Post about a Pentagon project mm-hmm. That was all about finding UFOs. Yeah.
New York Times broke this story on Saturday, December 16th. Said that from 2007 to 2012, the United States Congress allocated about $22 million a year, secret funding tucked away in the DoD annual defense authorization bill, to investigate sightings.
There's some
they called it the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program.
There are some strange things about this. One of them is that Robert Bigelow, and I hadn't realized that he owns Skinwalker Ranch, is part of this, working with NASA. Now, he owns Bigelow Aeronautics, I think, or something like that.
Right.
Luis Elizondo mm-hmm. is part of this, and he is a military intelligence official whose name rings a bell. What was he part of?
Luis Elizondo is now part of the To the Stars Academy, which is the initiative, the company launched by Tom DeLonge, former lead singer of the band Blink-182.
That's right. And that story came out a few weeks ago.
Yes. This was supposed to be this big disclosure announcement. And what it turned out to be was an initial public offering of stock. In fact, when you go to the website, tothestarsacademy.com, the very first thing you run into there is Invest now. Minimum investment $200. Price per share $5. Common stock excludes Canada. Sorry, Canada. 2,237 investors so far have pledged $2.1 million to this group.
Well, this may be, sort of propaganda, but it also may be part of this same idea of if we can get enough PR out there, then we can help. It'll help our business model.
Yeah. And this is this To the Stars Academy is intended to do a couple of things. It's to create. Let's see here. Let's see. We are. They plan to produce feature films, television series, books, and live interactive experiences to educate people about the reality of extraterrestrial intelligences. They want to support transformative research into brain-computer interfaces, engineering the time-space metric, and consciousness, which again was Dr. Edgar Mitchell. He was the co-founder of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which researched consciousness. Or as our friend Dr. Future, Dr. Michael Bennett would say, scientific ways to become possessed.
Yeah, well, that word transformative, that's a powerful word.
Yes, exactly. So this is what the To the Stars Academy is about. It's about To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science.
Harry Reid apparently tweeted regarding the Times story on this. The truth is out there. Seriously. That's what he said in his tweet.
Yeah. Now, Harry Reid, who retired from the Senate this past year, senator from Nevada, which, of course, is where Area 51 is located, was the one who got this money allocated in the DoD budget. Luis Elizondo was the guy in charge of the program, reportedly. He has resigned from the Department of Defense to become the Director of Global Security and Special Programs for To the Stars Academy. His bio reads, career intelligence officer whose experience includes working with the U.S. Army, the Department of Defense, the National Counterintelligence Executive, and the Director of National Intelligence. As a former special agent in charge, FBI, Luis conducted and supervised highly sensitive espionage and terrorism investigations around the world. There's more here. But here are some of the other people as part on the team for the To the Stars Academy. Jim Semivan, co-founder and vice president of operations. He was a senior intelligence service member of the Central Intelligence Agency. You'll notice there's a theme here. Dr. Hal Puthoff, vice president of science and technology, co-founder, VP of science and technology of TTS Academy. Since 85, president and CEO of Earth Tech International and director of the Institute of Advanced Studies at Austin. Published numerous papers in electron beam devices, laser space propulsion. Going down a little further, he was with the Stanford Research Group, Stanford Research Institute, SRI, where he was
Puthoff. That's where the name is. I knew that name sounded so familiar. I'm sitting here looking at it because I thought, I know that name. It's because I've read those books. He was one of the two, yes, who was on remote viewing. Yeah,
on remote viewing, exactly. And he was connected to the work of Andrea Poharich, who brought Uri Geller, the Israeli,
and is connected to the Nine.
And is connected to the Nine, right. Puthoff was one of the two men who investigated Geller for SRI and recommended to the Department of Defense, hey, we take this guy seriously. He can really can bend spoons with his mind and so forth. So Puthoff, again, connections to the intelligence community and, of course, true believer in the UFO phenomenon. Steve Justice, Aerospace Division Director. He is retired program director for advanced systems from Lockheed Martin Advanced Development Systems, better known as the Skunk Works, Area 51.
Oh, yes.
Yep. Luis Elizondo, we mentioned. Chris Mellon of the Mellon
Institute
family. Yes. One of the big money families here in the United States.
As in Carnegie Mellon.
Carnegie Mellon, right. Dr. Gary Nolan, genetics technologies consultant. Transhumanism. Dr. Paul Rapp, brain function and consciousness consultant. Norm Kahn, National Security Program Management. Dr. Colm Kelleher. Colm Kelleher's written an interesting book on, one of them is Hunt for the Skinwalker, as in Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But I believe he also wrote a book that's recommended by Dr. Michael Heiser on the cattle mutilation phenomenon.
Oh, yeah. Do you know that Puthoff also researched zero-point energy?
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
So what we've got
and
here...
he was a Scientologist there for a while. Don't know if he still is, but he was.
So anyway, the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, you've got a very heavy intelligence community presence on the senior staff of the TTS Academy. Tom DeLonge seems to be a genuine, true believer in the UFO phenomenon, but he makes a well-known face through which this group can attract private funding and financing to conduct their research that the U.S. government has been kind of involved in through the CIA and through other dark money projects over the years. When you read the works of people like Peter Levenda, especially Into the Nine, and how the Nine connects to other intelligence community activities such as the Kennedy assassination and the early UFO phenomenon and so forth. So this is really intriguing, and we're going to kind of keep our eyes on this. We didn't get into, because this initiative didn't pop up until we'd already turned in the manuscript for the book, we didn't have an opportunity to dig into this. But this is really, really intriguing, and especially the presence of Hal Puthoff, based on his history, is really intriguing.
Oh, very much so. You know, the funny thing about this is another story that I've got flagged to talk about, and I don't know if we're going to have time to really dig into it because I haven't read that many articles about it today, and that has to do with the Vatican saying that essentially if you lie as a journalist, it's a sin. Yeah. It's called the sin of communication.
Yeah, a checklist for good journalism. What he called it he didn't call it a mortal sin. What did he call it? A grave sin, which is another way of saying the same thing under Roman Catholic doctrine. That's a sin that'll keep you out of heaven.
Oh, very much so. And if you're a Catholic and you're a journalist, you might just be shaking in your boots when you read this, and because this is tantamount to controlling the media. I'm the decider, and I get to decide about your destination for eternity. And if I deem that your article about, XYZ is, sorry, but it's you've committed the sin of communication. And I will commit excommunication.
Yeah. That was kind of an interesting development. And you can understand why the Pope would feel that way, because there have been a number of revelations that have come out through the press about him. And about his ascension to the papacy.
Yeah.
Some
in
disclosures.
fact, this is something to talk to Tom Horn about, because he's really been following this. And it goes back to even before Francis became Pope. The sort of spin that was coming out of the Vatican, various whistleblowers that were revealing things going on in the Curie that were curious. Get that?
Yeah.
Curious. Yeah.
But there appears to have been a cabal inside the inner circle of cardinals, the upper echelon of cardinals, that engineered the resignation of Pope Benedict and pushed forward Pope Francis, who they thought they could control. And there are a number of conservative cardinals who are not happy with the direction that his papacy has gone. And those that are doctrinally conservative, and I would dare say more biblical in their outlook, are really, really unhappy with Francis.
Yeah, well, he's very much a Jesuit. The Jesuits historically tend to be almost revolutionary in their approach to socialism. In fact, many of them in the Western Hemisphere literally fought alongside some of the revolutionists in Central America and South America. Yeah.
And now recently, we didn't talk about this last week, I don't think, the Jesuits and Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.
I can't remember if we did or not. We may have. I know we talked about it on Sci Friday.
Yeah. There was a warning, and this goes back to late November, but...
didn't he have a pet squirrel?
Might have. Squirrel! There's a journal called America.
We're going to see how many
America
squirrel
Magazine,
references we can get.
Yeah. Where at a recent assembly called the Pontifical Council for Culture, requested that Pope Francis waive the monatum, which is a warning issued by the Holy See in 1962, so more than 50 years ago, about the writings of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Now, Chardin was Teilhard de Chardin just means from the village of Chardin. Teilhard was a Jesuit. He was an anthropologist by training. He was the character who inspired Father Lancaster Marin in The Exorcist. And he tried to find a way to synthesize evolution and the Bible. And he came up with the idea that we are all growing in sentience. Everything is growing in sentience. And that he was the one who coined the term the noosphere, which is like the network of communication that we humans share with one another, sort of a shared knowledge, almost a hive mind sort of thing, that someday would lead us to a point where we become one with God, essentially. Yes. What he called the Omega point, which, Dr. Ray Kurzweil sort of adopted in put more of a scientific spin on it and calls the singularity.
And the Institute of Noetic Sciences uses that idea of a noosphere, and that's what drives them. Right.
Well, that is unbiblical. I mean, essentially, this is very Eastern in its outlook. This idea that our destiny is to become part of a collective, a hive mind, to lose our sense of self. Oddly enough, that was what drove the research of Dr. Rick Strassman in his DMT experiments at, was it Arizona or Arizona State? I forget, one of those two universities.
I can't remember. I can look it up if you want me to.
He dosed researchers, volunteers, with DMT, which led to his book, The Spirit Molecule, because he believed that by enabling the human mind to experience that spirit realm, which he thought would take place, would happen if by injecting that molecule, that compound into the human bloodstream.
University of New Mexico.
New Mexico. All right. I knew it was the desert Southwest, just had the wrong state. University of New Mexico. He thought that the volunteers would experience nirvana if they basically gave them a concentrated dose of DMT instead of trying to smoke it or ingest it in the form of tea, ayahuasca. Well, that's not what happened. They never lost their sense of self. And in fact, once they got into the spirit realm, which they did experience, they found that the entities that lived there were at best ambivalent and at worst openly hostile to the humans who dared cross over into their domain.
And some within the same room reported seeing the same thing at the same time.
Right. Which is really creepy when you think about it, but as Christians, it shouldn't surprise you. If the barrier that prevents us from seeing into the other realm is removed, we should be seeing the same thing at the same time. And that's what these volunteers were seeing when they were dosed with DMT. They were seeing the same entities at the same time, independently of one another. It wasn't like they compared stories later and made something up. They were seeing it at the same time. And one of the guys reported a really horrifying incident in which what he described them as crocodile-like anthropoids, in other words, reptilian creatures, sexually assaulted him in a very violent way. It was horrifying. But the point was, it absolutely was the opposite of what Dr. Strassman expected to find, which was nirvana, this idea that you were just a drop in the ocean, that your sense of self was totally erased. That's not what happens in the spirit realm. That's not what happens in the Bible. We are never, ever shown in the Bible that we lose our sense of self.
No, in fact, we are individuals with individual responsibility.
Right, which means, you created with free will, but you are responsible for, in fact, we were reading that today in the book of Jeremiah, that there was a saying that was popular back in the 7th century, 6th century BC. The father eats sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. In other words, bad choices the father makes are visited upon the children. The consequences are visited upon the children. Well,
which is biblical.
That is biblical. But God says, there's a day coming when judgment will be passed down. But when the father eats sour grapes, only his teeth will be set on edge. In other words, the kids won't be punished for the sins of the father.
Right.
So, that's interesting, though, that the group of Jesuits at this Pontifical Council for Culture asking Pope Francis, hey, can you take the warning label off of Teilhard's writings? Because that's what Teilhard is pointing us to, this omega point, where one day we will all become one and one with God at the end. Well, no, we won't. And it's a bit disturbing that very powerful forces within the Vatican are pushing for that.
That is disturbing. I'd like to think, because I'm not one of those people, and I know that there are a few people that sort of like to paint Catholicism with a broad brush.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there are necessarily whole groups of religious worshipers that because they follow a set of rules put in place by those at the top, that entire people group they're all evil or mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there are lots of genuine believers in those Catholic pews.
Yeah.
And they're probably not very happy with the direction that the Catholic Church is moving. And because of that, there are some who leave the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
But because Catholicism is also identified almost like it's in your DNA because you inherited it from your parents.
Right.
It's almost a social activity.
And you see that in a lot of denominations, too.
Yes, exactly. So that makes it harder to walk away from.
Sure. We knew some Amish, former Amish folks back in St. Louis.
They
and they
were
talked about
shunned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Lost contact with all of their friends and family members that they had grown up with.
Yeah.
And that's sad. But that's why some people will just go along rather than make the tough decisions to follow what we are called to in Scripture.
There is no perfect denomination.
No.
There is none righteous, no, not one. There is no perfect denomination.
Right.
No, not one.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we probably haven't said this often enough, but as you listen to these podcasts, as you listen to our Bible studies, don't take what we say as gospel. Only take the gospel as gospel, because there are things I know for a fact, things that I have changed my opinion on over the years because I was way wrong years ago. I've got it absolutely correct today. But 10 years from now, I'll probably look back and say, boy, I was really stupid back then. So, no, I'm joking, of course.
Well, we're all on a journey of discovery, and the Lord's teaching us all along the way, and not one of us is going to get everything right before the Lord calls us home. There was only one individual as a human being who ever lived a sinless life. And we worship him as our Savior.
Right.
And so I'm grateful to say, you're the one. Mm-hmm. You're the only one.
The only one.
The only one. And I just look forward to sitting at his feet someday and learning.
Yeah.
Okay, Sharon, you got this wrong. You got this wrong. Okay. The easiest thing is to do is just say, you got almost all of it wrong.
Yeah. And we as Christians would do well to be a little more gracious with one another when we disagree over points of doctrine, because none of us has it all correct.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that are pretty clear in Scripture, I think, but even then, let's follow the biblical command, the Apostle Peter who wrote, let's do so with gentleness and respect, because especially when we're dealing with people who are not yet believers, but even when we're communicating back and forth, if non-believers are looking in from the outside and seeing our conversation and seeing us just hammering each other, just bashing each other across the head with boards, it's like, why would I want to be one of those people? They're really angry all the time. They really, hate each other and hate everybody who doesn't think the way they do. For a lot of people, the only gospel they know is what they see in the way we live, and we don't always live out a very good gospel.
Honestly, if we can't get along within the body of Christ, how can we expect for the world to open themselves up to us and trust us enough to have a conversation? We are called to be salt and light, and we've fallen down on the job.
Yeah.
We've put our salt out into the rain and allowed it to just become nothing. And the light, we like being able to read our little notes underneath this bushel.
Yeah, that's right. We're hiding it under the bushel so no one else can see it, because if they see it, they might come over and yell at us or be mean or something. So we're just going to hide behind our walls here. Now, it doesn't mean we adopt a squishy gospel of universalism where everything is okay and Jesus loves everything and everybody and it's all good no matter what it doesn't really matter what you believe as long as you believe something. No, that's not what we're saying at all. I mean, there are times we have to be bold in our witness, but the challenge is to do it with gentleness and respect.
You start with love. You step out with love, and that means I respect you as an individual. And, when that person approaches you, and oftentimes if you live a life that is worthy and you're consistent in your walk, many times people will be watching you quietly, and then when that person goes through stress in his or her life, they'll come to you and say, look, I know that you're someone who prays a lot, and I don't really know how to talk to God, or I'm not really sure who he is or she is or whatever. Would you pray for me?
Yeah.
And that's the Lord opening a door.
Right.
Now, I want to back up and quickly. I don't believe God's a woman. But there are a lot of people in the world who have no, in fact, if you say Jesus Christ to some kids in the world, they have no idea. That's a swear word to them. Mm-hmm. That's a swear phrase. Yeah. They don't know that this is an individual who actually lived and died for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And sadly, we saw a story a few weeks ago about a ministry in the UK that is that every year they hand out kids storybooks about the first nativity, about the birth of Jesus, but they took out all the Bible references this year because they said, well, kids don't know what the Bible is, and so it's just confusing if we put those references in there.
But it's okay if we put in Santa Claus and the elves?
Well, I don't think they put in Santa Claus and the elves. I was
going to say that takes explanation as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're right. You're right. Maybe the whole point of sending out those books is so that you can open that door and say, you can know who Jesus is and what this is all about, and here is the book in which you can find these things. But no, they took the other path and just said, well, we're just going to take out the Bible verse references because kids don't know what the Bible is.
That is such a shame.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
that's the world in which we live.
Come, Lord Jesus.
Amen to that. Well,
I want to remind you that next May we may have a few spots left in the Israel tour. We've not heard lately if they've all been filled, but a few weeks ago we were told there are 10 spots that have just opened up. So if you've really wanted to go to Israel with us and with the Heisers, then we recommend going to lipkintours.com and checking out the 2018 70th year May, which is in May of next year, the 70th year tour. It's going to be incredible. I mean, seriously, we will be in Jerusalem on that 70th anniversary.
Yeah.
Big number prophetically.
Yes. And boy, just some of the things that we're going to see, the archaeological sites, the history will come alive. And we are so looking forward to that. Mount Hermon, the Golan Heights, and some of the megalithic structures there. Gilgal Rephaim, for one. We'll visit Qumran and see the Dead Sea, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. And then there's the opportunity, if you choose, to take the extension to that tour to go to Petra, to Jordan, and again see more of the archaeological sites there. And I see that Gen 6 is still offering the True Legends Expedition and Seminar to Rome and Sardinia. There are only a few slots left on that tour, which will follow.
What's the website for that?
It's truelegendstheseries.com, truelegendstheseries.com. That will follow. The tour to Israel, by the way, begins May 6th and runs through the 16th. If you take the extension, it runs through the 19th. And then the tour of Rome and Sardinia, May 20th through the 27th. So we will go to the Vatican, tour the other historical sites in Rome, and then we'll go to Sardinia and see the archaeological sites there, the Neuralgic Towers, the tombs of the giants, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see some of those Tophets, because that relates to the research I'm doing for the forthcoming book. The sacrifices made by the Phoenicians, the descendants of the Amorites, to the old gods who they prayed to and summoned in necromancy rituals to bless their kings. So, yeah, some fascinating stuff. The month of May next year will be amazing. So we're looking forward to that.
It's a crazy year coming up. Lots of things to do, but I'm so grateful to the Lord for allowing us to do them.
Amen.
And we're running out of time.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, download the mobile app for the Gilbert House Fellowship Bible Study.
Oh, yeah.
That is linked from the website, gilberthouse.org. There are, it essentially updates whenever we post the new audio for the studies. So you'll get those, whether you've got an Android device or an iOS device. Again, a free app for either. And again, you'll find that linked at gilberthouse.org.
That's right. By the way, Spreaker.com, you can find, and we'll put the link to the page, you can find all the podcasts. If you're just really bored.
Yeah.
Or you're just, glutton for punishment.
Well, yeah, the Spreaker site actually has an RSS feed for all of our podcasts. So you could basically, one code to rule them all. We get the Gilbert House Fellowship, you'll get P.I.D. Radio and A View from the Bunker, and this week's guest is who?
Someone.
Someone. Who did I talk to? Oh, Norio. No, was it Norio Hayakawa? Did I do that last week? No, it's Norio Hayakawa. Who is, I better double check that. I'm so confused. It's been kind of a hectic week. Yes, Norio Hayakawa, who is featured in the forthcoming film Alien Intrusion. He has been a researcher of the UFO phenomenon for decades, literally decades, and he's come to the conclusion that there is something going on, but it isn't evidence of actual physical extraterrestrial presence here on the on Earth. Mm-hmm. And he explains why. So that will be posted later today, Sunday, December 17th. And there will also be, as with this too, this will be available at the YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/Derek Gilbert.
We're slowly taking over the internet, which means it's going to crash.
Exactly. And until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening. P.I.D. Radio is a production of Gilbert House Ministries. The opening theme is adapted from The Alchemist's Tower by Kevin MacLeod, www.incompetech.com. The closing theme is New Day Coming by Steve Grace, stevegrace.com. Our website is PIDradio.com, where you'll find the show notes, links to our personal websites, our books, our weekly Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, and links to connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The content of this program is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution No Derivatives 4.0 International License. For more information, see creativecommons.org.
Gonna step up to the microphone, say it loud and clear.